My name is Tiffany Dubin, and I've just come out of a hellish 2-year divorce. The biggest issue on the table in my divorce was money. I ended up spending $1 million on my divorce. The biggest lesson I learned about the legal aspect of divorce is that it doesn't work and no one does their job. So you got to learn everybody else's job to get things done. One of my divorce lawyers had a good quote. She said, "It's not justice, it's just the system." So doing a little homework it goes a long way. You should basically look at your divorce as a job, and just like you wouldn't delegate certain things that you're responsible for to someone else, you shouldn't delegate your future. I would lose the assumption that my attorney cared, and I would interview attorneys in a more systematic way, hopefully without any emotion and more objectively. I would get referrals. The reality is, when you're getting divorced and you're in crisis, emotion takes away all reason, so it's difficult. The best way to get a good divorce attorney is to speak to somebody who's gone through the process and gives you the real lowdown. If I was to do it again, I'd learn the job before hiring the attorney. I'd be 10 steps ahead of him. I'd know that if he had to file his RJA at a certain date, or else he was going to get penalized. In my case, I had a lot of sloppy paperwork. I didn't know what the lawyers were supposed to do. I wasn't their most important client, so they put me to the side, and I ended up getting penalized when I went to trial because my lawyer had messed up, was sloppy and lazy. No matter how notable your divorce attorney is, the reality is that the system doesn't work. And your attorney became a divorce lawyer because he couldn't become anything else. They're very good at causing a lot of noise, but most divorces don't result in any kind of resolution in court. People eventually settle, and so it's a divorce attorney's job to delay the process, make it seem really complicated. You're emotional, and so you hand over all power to your divorce attorney. And the reality is, he's just milking you for time and money. What I discovered doing divorce is that you really need to be your own advocate. It's not unlike being in a hospital and double checking everything. No one does anything unless you're in front of them. You can never assume that anyone reads papers, that anyone takes the time to understand your particular case. Divorce is so emotional that a popular divorce attorney is flooded and will immediately template you, put you in a box, and assume you're done the moment he sees you. One of the biggest lessons I learned was to trust nobody, and your divorce attorney needs to be managed. You can't share everything with him. You have to be selective what you tell him. You can't assume he'll do anything. You have to know his job so you know what he's supposed to be doing next, because if you don't, he probably won't be doing it. When you go and interview your lawyer, you should be looking at who his associate is, and get a commitment from the lawyer that that's the associate you will be working with. Make sure you like the associate. Make sure they're on target, they're smart, they're with it, they seem reactive. Look at who the receptionists are in the place. They're the people that will make sure your call will go through in the future when you're hysterical, or who will be talking on the other line to somebody else. From what I learned, lawyers become lawyers because they're not very good with numbers. And so if you're making your financial future, get some outside advice. Don't go to your lawyer for financial planning. He doesn't know. He needs some help. Remember that the reality of your financial position is going to affect how loyal people are to you. And so if you're not very financially stable and you're in crisis and need some help, don't let your lawyer know. Let's get him down the first step, and then you'll figure out. Let him go to the courts and try and fight them to get the money. Don't let him think that there's no hope of you ever paying him. Part of the process of hiring your lawyer should be to have them be accountable to you and give you weekly reports, monthly reports, specific dates. You should have a calendar with things mapped out. The lawyers enjoy, you hire them, and next thing you know, months go by, you can't get answers on questions. Motions get filed. What does a motion mean? Motion means thousands of dollars and many, many more months. One of the biggest things that people complain about in divorce is no reaction from the lawyers. Months drag by over simple issues. The lawyers are there to drag it out. Don't be afraid to harp on them, to follow up, to call them 10 times if that's what it takes. Follow up by email. Hold them accountable to every single thing they said they would do within a week. If you don't, somebody else is doing it. Again, that's why you need the competent, up-to-it associate that likes you. I found that one of the most important things was documenting every single conversation I had with my lawyer. I went through 3 different lawyers, and I found that once I switched from the first lawyer to the second, things that had been negotiated and dealt with that weren't put on paper suddenly disappeared. The story changed. So I made it a point after that of every time I met with a lawyer, I would then send them a follow-up email outlining what we talked about, what we agreed on, what date they would get me the information or submit the papers to the court, and that help matters a bit. I spent 2 years getting divorced. I went through 3 different divorce attorneys, 3 different divorce judges. The best part about the whole process, I learned a lot about business. It's kind of fascinating. I started taking financial control of my life. I started paying attention. I never knew how to pay attention before. And basically, even though it was absolute hell, I think I'll be a better business person in the future. I now never delegate anything to anybody else without following up, knowing what they're supposed to do, giving them time frames for when they have to get the work back to me. The reality is it's a bummer of a process, and I did everything wrong. I did everything backwards. So maybe this will help people do it, get a few shortcuts through the process.